This episode and the entire season is proudly brought to you by California Cryobank. Go to cryobank.com, use code LOVEISLOVE, and get a free level 2 subscription to their donor catalog. Enjoy.
Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Our freedoms are all connected. And everybody needs to be reminded of that.
Yes.
And once we start to take some freedoms away from some people, there'll be another group, and eventually they will come for your freedoms.
Welcome, y'all, to the Queer Family Podcast, the show all about family, but with gay. My name is Jaimie. I am your queer host, and you, my beautiful friends, are tuning into the show that highlights, uplifts, celebrates, and normalizes LGBTQIA plus families in all of our beautiful identities. And this little episode right here does just that in so many ways. You are also tuning into the end of what I have called the second annual Pride Extravaganza. What's that, you ask? What's the Pride Extravaganza? Well, for the entire month of June, Pride Month, I have given you double the episodes of queer family goodness. So not only did you get an episode every Monday through June, you also got one every Thursday. And this right here is the final one of the second annual Pride Extravaganza. And it's a good one. Oh my God, it's such a good one. And as Pride Month comes to a close, sadly, let this be a reminder to you that while Pride Month might have ended, your pride in yourself, your pride in your identity, your pride in your family need not stop at the end of June. Carry that pride on because you are loved. I love you. You are very loved. This community loves you. And you, my friend, are perfect and beautiful just the way you are. After this here episode, I am going to take a little hiatus because, to be quite honest, y'all, I haven't had an actual break from producing and running this podcast in years. My previous co-host, Robin Hopkins, left, and I hit the ground running, and I didn't stop. And that was years ago. And mama needs a break, y'all. And also, my inbox, my ever-flowing inbox, the Queer Family Podcast at gmail.com, continuously gets more and more emails, and I have not been able to keep on top of it. So I'm going to spend the next month, this entire month, the month of July, catching up on emails, making sure I haven't forgotten any of y'all who have reached out. Please still continue to reach out. If you think you'd be a good guest for this show, come on, bring it. Let me know. I can't wait to hear from all of you. Now, today's guest, while our last episode was the gay grandmas, and it reminded us of how far we've come, I had the honor of sitting down with Sarah Kate Ellis, the CEO of GLAAD, to talk about ways and strategies and resources on how we can all take the torch that was handed to us by the gay grandmas and folks like them who fought the fight to give us the rights we have today and carry that torch forward towards even more rights and towards an even more equal world for our beautiful LGBTQ community. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you have a wonderful July. Keep checking in on social media. I am on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at the Queer Family Podcast. And I'm also at the Queer Family Podcast at gmail.com if you'd like to reach out to me personally. I'm here for you. I love you. Pride is year-long, bishas, so enjoy it. Happy Pride, happy lives, and happy episode right here. Helen, Beulah, Nicole, Jerson, everybody, all of you, help me roll this tape, would you please? Thank you so much.
Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Oh,
How are you?
I am good. Just trucking along, doing the thing, doing all the things. Trying. The reason I wanted to talk to you is because there is some shit, excuse my French, going down in New York City in District 2, above all places, which is what is the neighborhood that houses Chelsea and Greenwich Village and Hell's Kitchen. like that
Crazy.
whole area. It's insane. So I didn't know if you knew much about it or if, I just want to talk to you and pick your brain because when we're recording now, I'm not going to do the elevator pitch. I usually do that weird 30-second elevator pitch where you explain who you are. This doesn't really warrant that because we're kind of like going away from our usual script with the queer families. But you are a previous guest and your episode is actually one of my favorites ever. You and your wife, Kristen. Oh my God. We had so much fun that day. So much fun.
That was so much fun. I know.
Yeah.
I wish you were here again in person. That was really fun.
It was. I personally had a lot of fun. And chatting with you two was like one of the highlights of my life. And your story, for the listeners who are listening, your story is amazing because y'all were both pregnant at the same time. And to this day, I haven't spoken to anyone else who's done that.
And now our kids are 15. It's finally settling down. No.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
It was
15.
bonkers. Yeah.
Well, so you're in New York, you're on Long Island, but so you're not
Yes.
in the city, but you're in New York and there's some stuff going down. Moms for Liberty has made their way to New York and the District 2 CEC has somewhat been infiltrated by some homophobic, anti-trans, trying to not use a terrible word, people. So I just wanted to pick your brain because you are Sarah Kate Ellis of GLAAD, the organization that does all the many things for us. Can you, in a nutshell, tell us who GLAAD is and what your mission is and all the things?
Sure. We're going to be celebrating 40 years next year.
Oh my God.
And we are the LGBTQ advocacy organization. Our job is to ensure that the world is safe for LGBTQ people. And we do that by advocating using platforms, really large platforms, culture changing moments to ensure that LGBTQ voices are there and that we're shaping the narrative around our community, ensuring that it's fair and accurate.
Yeah.
So trans, is an enormous piece of our work right now because the community is just getting clobbered out there.
Yeah.
Both figuratively and literally. 30% of Americans say they know someone who's trans. More Americans say they've seen a ghost than know a trans person.
Oh my God.
So we are dealing with a 70% information gap. And that is where the Moms of Liberty are coming in and taking advantage of this lack of understanding and lack of knowledge of trans folks in America. And they're crafting a narrative around trans folks that it's inaccurate, filled with misinformation.
Yes.
And they're using political platforms to do that, whether it be the school board or the national run for presidency. We're seeing it across the board.
I really never thought it would come to my little bubble here. I thought I lived in the safe bubble. I used to be like, oh yeah, in the South, they have to deal, I will never speak the way I used to speak about places that have this kind of stuff happening because now it's happening here and it's happening to me. And I have never had to defend my community as much as I have in the past 2 months. I have been depressed. I've been sad. I've been angry. I cannot believe, and it's exactly what you're saying. There is so much lack of knowledge. I don't want to say ignorance, but there is so much lack of knowledge when it comes to, especially the trans community, that I'm finding myself I don't have all the tools even to defend my community and the trans community and trans girls playing sports. I don't have them all at my fingertips. So I'm finding myself at such a loss, but also just infuriated by the crazy, not true information that is being spread like wildfire through all the parents in my school. I mean, we've become divided. It's kind of insane. And I was really close with these people. I still am. So it's hard. So I'm wondering do you know much about what's going on in District 2? Have you heard anything about it?
I mean, I don't know the specific play-by-play in District 2, but I've seen it all across America. I've seen it, I'm in Nassau County out here on Long Island. I've seen it play out here as well. and gotten involved with the school board in my area as well. So, and now I don't know if you saw the news today, but the Supreme Court is going to take up the Tennessee case.
Yes.
Which was asked for by the Biden administration. I'm so indifferent. I mean, this Supreme Court seems to be fairly extremist and radical in their ways. So I am very concerned about how they're going to rule on this. But basically what they're going to rule on is gender affirming care for youth. And if blocking it is against the Constitution or not. They did recently rule in favor in Idaho. It was an emergency ruling to support the state's ban on gender affirming care, which means that if a doctor practices gender affirming care, which, by the way, gender affirming care can be mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so a kid can talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And so I think that our language is really important here and helping people understand what is encapsulating, what is gender, quote unquote, gender affirming care means a lot of times that a kid who might be confused or questioning wants to speak to a therapist.
And that is classified. That goes under that umbrella.
It does.
Right.
Yes. And so do hormones and so do blockers. But we check common sense at the door in these situations. We did it around gay 20 years ago. It was like all of a sudden gay people were vicious, horrible people coming to ruin the society.
Yeah.
And they needed to be governed against. And we needed to be governed against. And now trans people are here to ruin society and they need to be governed against and policed.
Yeah.
Versus sounds like this kid might need some support.
Right.
And hopefully they have great parents. If they don't have great parents, that's a whole other story, but who want to help them figure out who they are in this world. No one is, this is not deep medical intervention.
No. In many cases, I don't know the statistics, but I feel like in most cases, we're not talking about extreme medical intervention here with teenagers or 8-year-olds at all. I mean, that doesn't happen until much later in life. And you've been through a battery of tests. You've been through a lot of therapy and discussion and working it out and making sure before you embark on that. I mean, that's where where's common sense in all of this? Yeah. Yeah.
It's truly remarkable how people just think that all of a sudden that now we're, the youth of America are lining up for surgeries.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm coming up against with a lot of parents in my school now, because this happened. And just to make it give you a little more background, our CEC, the District 2 CEC, our PTA president is actually on the District 2 CEC board. And he is a member of an organization called Place NYC. I'm not sure if you know about it, but they kind of had basically a strategy to kind of infiltrate all the CECs in New York. And now they're implementing their strategy. They got a bunch of each other in there, and he's one of them. And they're starting to tick off the checklist one by one here. And this anti-trans resolution was one of them. And our PTA president voted in favor of it. And he always votes a lot in alignment with all of the members of Place NYC. So it's like a whole thing. So we're not really friends with our PTA president, but a lot of people at my school are, because he's a really nice man. The questions and the things that I have heard from parents that I'm friends with have really started to get very concerning for me, because I thought we were all aligned in equality and inclusion. I thought we were all on the same page, and it's really a very rude awakening that we are very much not. And if these trans girls are going to take scholarships away from our daughters, which is some false narratives that they like to throw around, then of course they shouldn't play with our daughters. We're protecting our girls. This is the things that people are saying to me. I'm speaking in circles because I'm one person, trying to, and in 5th grade, my daughter's in 5th grade, they read this book called Gracefully Grayson, recently. And it's about a little trans girl, I think. I haven't read the whole book, but it's a story of a child who I think wants to transition or is questioning their gender identity. And they had a whole study on it, and it was, social justice and, what does it mean? And we hear one of the parents at a birthday party pickup saying, I don't understand why they're reading a book like this. Like our children, my daughter's essay started with Grayson identifies as. They're not ready for that. They're not ready to talk about how people might identify. Like the things I'm hearing, I hang out with you. Wait a second. How are we so far from each other in knowledge about this? So I don't know what to do, Sarah Kate. I don't know what to do.
Look, you can't boil the ocean. There are a lot of folks in the LGBTQ movement who we're working on that. We just released 3 different ad campaigns educating. Actually, one of them targets moms with school-age kids. Helps to define who trans people are and share who trans people are.
I think that's in
big language
piece
that they can hear and by messengers that they can hear from. So we did a lot of, message testing and kind of a surgical approach to that. We looked at the most confused populations, right? So there's moms with school-age kids, and then there are 60 plus year olds. Now, the 60 plus year olds are really important because they're the most people who vote.
Yeah, right.
So we wanted to make sure that we call it an inoculation campaign. And basically what we're trying to do is inoculate the lies and the misinformation that are being put out there. So we've launched a national one. We've launched a targeted one in states across America. And then we've launched an outdoor campaign called Protect This Kid that takes celebrities and who are LGBTQ and they show a picture of themselves, starts with a picture of themselves when they're a kid, and you zoom out and you see that it's Margaret Cho or it's Billy Porter or
you. I saw yours.
Yes. Yes. So that's sort of to help people understand that protecting all kids matters. And that we're pitting kids against each other. And so first and foremost, I would say, Jaimie, take a deep breath. You cannot do this alone. You have a movement behind you, but you are in, a situation. It's exhausting. Oftentimes for myself included, it's like I fight every day out there. The last thing I want to do is come home and have to fight as well. So I understand that it's so debilitating and it's heartbreaking, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I keep finding myself just like insanely sad. And I just can't get out of the rut because it's just like it's a rude awakening. And it's like.
But it's a huge opportunity.
We'll be right back.
Queer Family Podcast.
I interrupt this program to talk for a second about sperm. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. Actually, I am going to talk about our sponsor, California Cryobank, the #1 sperm bank in the U.S. who has been helping LGBTQ families fulfill the dreams of parenthood for more than 45 years, y'all, including yours truly right here. And in addition to offering one of the largest and most diverse donor catalogs to choose from, they also provide free vial transfer for partners and a personalized letter if needed for second parent adoptions. They also offer free vial storage offers with their Family Today and Family Tomorrow programs and access to their private sibling donor registry and really so much more. I am so happy that I use them, and I know countless others who are as well. And you can start your donor search today with my nifty promo code. You just have to visit cryobank.com, create an account, and use promo code LOVEISLOVE for a free level 2 subscription to their donor catalog. You can also use that promo code towards a discount on a level 3 subscription. So go ahead, make that account, go see what they have to offer, and maybe, I don't know, make those babies and then come talk to me about them. Okay, back to the show.
Love is love.
If you can pull back, because you're in the center of this right now. 7 years ago, Americans didn't even know the word transgender, let
Yeah.
alone the community within our community, right?
Right.
And so the visibility has skyrocketed. But
Mhm.
what has happened is that there has been this information education gap that is now being filled by politicians, and really on cable news, honestly,
Yeah.
is the biggest educator, unfortunately, with misinformation. And so
Yes.
this is not unlike what we have seen before, especially with these politicians who like to politicize our community.
Mhm.
This is their playbook. They've gotten a little bit better, a little bit smarter. We beat them out on LGB, and now we're at the T in the gender nonconforming. And here's a great piece of news I'll give you. We do a voter poll, many of them through a big election cycle, and the last voter poll that we did, over 53% of conservative voters said that they would not vote for a politician who was attacking the trans community.
Oh.
53%. What that
Wow.
means to me is that when we saw marriage equality and public opinion shift to about 50%, 53%, it was like 51 to 53%, all of a sudden the trajectory switched. Where it was like the wind was coming at us, and now all of a sudden it was at our backs and we were moving. So I don't know that we're moving yet, but it's making a difference. And I think what you have to understand is that people inherently want to connect, and we are all fear-based. The first place we go to feel fear for protection, right? And so it's getting past that fear and meeting people where they are. Oftentimes I find one of the most successful approaches is asking people questions versus trying to explain to them. So for instance, these folks who are saying to you, I don't want a trans girl getting a scholarship over my girl, which both are girls, by the way.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
but let's just meet people where they are. And you start with, well, have you heard of this happening? Where have you heard of this happening? Who did you hear this happen to? I haven't heard of that. I've just heard of, young girls wanting to play sports. And I guess we're talking about the 1% of those that go on to bigger and better things. So when you start to ask questions and you poke a little, people start answering it for themselves, and they start to hear themselves and how irrational it sounds at a level versus, because people can't hear you when they're dug in, but they can hear themselves. So asking questions is oftentimes just being inquisitive. What did you hear? Oh, who'd you hear that from? What was your source on that? Was that a newspaper? Was that a blah, blah? Just keep asking. And sometimes what I do is I'll pepper it with my own thing. Like, when my kids were playing soccer, it was the entire team ran after one ball, right? And as a parent, I've only just wanted my kids' self-esteem to get built up. That's what sports has been for me. I don't know what it's been for you. Like you can,
same.
No, but you can say that to them. And I'm role playing.
I'm here with you.
Jaimie.
I'm like, yes, and I'm in the conversation. Go, yes.
And I would imagine a parent of a trans kid who's really struggling just wants a sense of belonging and wants to be part of that. Like, how can we exclude the kids who are the most ostracized?
Right.
Like, that just breaks my heart. And when you start appealing to parents as parents, and you start to pull away the fear and you start to let them answer some of the questions, you start to build that muscle where they start asking someone else the questions.
Right. Ooh, that's good, Sarah Kate. And that's a really great way to invite in.
Yes.
That's the term. Got to invite in and not call out, which I'm a caller outer, and I have to work on that. So inviting in is the key there. And I like that. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to try to. And sometimes I think you will get answers, like I already have gotten answers from, for instance, the PTA president, who I have met with privately to try and get him to understand how hurtful the vote was. Doesn't work. And, he says those things, the scholarship thing. That doesn't happen. I'm calling out, I'm like, accusing. And then he backs it up with, well, I have emails from all these parents and I have email, you know what I mean? So like some people I don't know what to do with a conversation like that where.
Well, let's meet with the parent. When people, as soon as I say, well, have you met with a trans kid?
Right. Oh, yes, many.
He has.
That's what he says. I'm like, but then I want to be like, who?
Well, then you should say who, because I can make sure that you meet with some who just want to play sports. Like, how do we eliminate this? People are going to lie. I can't help them. Right. But you can back them into a corner on their lies too, because you can ask for proof. And especially in a PTA position, he has to be held accountable. So he has to produce those emails and he has to produce the people that he's met with. He owes you that.
Right.
To say, here are the kids that I met with. Here are the families I met with of trans kids. I don't think you could just say that in a position like that of power without proving.
Right. That's a good point. Also, I don't really want to talk to him anymore, but I have a feeling I will be. So, so there's that. But this is all really great. And this is really what I need because, like you said, like take a breath, Jaimie. I'm just like going a mile a minute and freaking out left and right here. And I feel like I'm not being very effective with everything I'm trying to do or say or complain about. I'm just good at complaining, Sarah.
Well, I mean, we're fighters, right? We've had to just survive. I mean, it's part of our survival toolkit is to fight. And so when we feel like somebody's coming at us, I mean, it's my instinct too. I have to like rewire my brain every time to be like, no, meet them where they are, have a conversation. And then I'm like, it's so insulting. Like, why do I have to,
Yes. All of that. Like, I don't want to anymore. It's hurting me.
Exhausting. Yeah.
And, it's in the name of protecting these little girls, which is like, very important. And it feels like history is repeating itself, like you alluded to earlier. And hopefully, like you say, we're hopefully are going to get the wind behind us and some positive momentum going. But there's a lot of scary stuff on the horizon as well with the upcoming election and all the stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, that's a whole other level, Jaimie, a whole other level.
But y'all are working on it.
We're working our butts off. I mean, here's the thing, is that what gives me optimism for this next election is that the LGBTQ community is, in the last general election, 94% of the community who's registered to vote voted. That's extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
We are becoming a fierce voting bloc. I think by 2030, we're going to be 1 out of 7. By 2040, we're going to be 1 out of 5 voters, that doesn't move even faster. And that's a lot of, this next generation, 30% are LGBTQ. So as the community is growing and our power is growing, we know the importance of our power as a community. So my job is I see in the election, because we're a C3, which means that we're not politically, we want pro-equality voters and candidates to be chosen.
Yes.
My job is to get the biggest LGBTQ get out the vote. And we know that in key states, we can be the voting difference in those states.
Yeah.
I think it's going to probably come down to about 3 states this year.
Yeah.
And we can make the difference in those.
Yeah.
We have the power.
That's good. And where can people go to find out what they can do to make a difference personally? What can I do?
Yeah, go to GLAAD.org/vote. And then there's tons of resources and we can lead you to other places if you wanted to get involved with particular candidates or anything like that. But we don't do that part of it. But make sure you're registered, make sure you're registering people, and make sure you have a plan to get to the polls. This is going to be a turnout election.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And they all are. I mean, we always say that, but this is going to be I think, razor thin.
This is a scary one. It's a
Mhm.
scary one. And even with these CEC meetings that have been going on, like my wife and I have been attending for quite some time because there's some policies we don't agree with, even besides the anti-trans stuff that they're pushing. And we've been watching and my wife has been speaking at them for a while. Ever since the anti-trans resolution was brought up and in, the trans community has been showing up and speaking, and they're going to continue to show up and speak. And it's really a testament to you mess with the wrong community. Yeah,
Right.
it is. You are so right. And it also is scary. And yet they're not going to stop showing up.
Mm-mm.
And so none of us can stop showing up either. And there's so many ways to show up, I suppose. And we need our strong allies too.
100%. We need allies. And I think allies, you know, what we find is we call them detached allies. They're good on some of the topics and then they're not so great on the others. And a lot of the not so great topics are around trans and gender nonconforming because this education gap. And so the more that we can help educate folks and bring them along, the more allies we'll have.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I keep saying I'm going to put together just a compilation of documents and a compilation of reading material for people when they ask me, but I'm not doing it. I can't do it. It's so much work. So like where would you recommend people look? Where should people go to learn and also direct people to learn more?
We have a couple of things on our site. It is one of the most searched things on our site. And then I think probably the Trans Law Center has some information on their site.
Okay.
There's a couple of trans organizations that I think probably do a pretty good job of it. And I can get those to you.
Okay.
I don't know them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
For resources, but there are resources out there.
Yeah, there definitely are. And one of these days I'm going to sit down and put them all together in something, but when I have time, which I don't have. So
I mean, it's crazy.
I really appreciate you sitting down and just discussing this with me. I feel comforted just by knowing you are out there doing the work and that your whole organization, GLAAD, is doing the work. And it has put me a little bit at ease just even having this discussion with you, even though the state of the world is still the same.
It is, but you know what? I think change only happens when there's conflict. And that's why I was really trying to give that like broader view that people have only heard about trans people for the past handful of years, even though they've been around forever. And the focus is only turned to them. And this looks like a good political opportunity that, you know, the extremists are using to continue to politicize our community. However, our community is amazing. We're resilient and we are fighters. Our allies are open to learning and growing and coming along with us. So we're going to be okay, but it is a fight. It's not going to come easily. And we do have to keep our foot on the gas pedal.
Yes.
And thank you for the work that you're doing because you are on the front lines of the fight. And so many parents are across America right now. And it's exhausting and it's debilitating. And we need you there. We need you speaking up and holding power accountable.
Yeah. And that goes for everyone listening too. Like, here we go. It's time. Pride started as a riot. Pride Month is coming to a close and it's go time. Keep our feet on the pedal. I like that. Yes. And I appreciate you immensely. And I am so glad you took this time.
Thanks for having me. And our freedoms are all connected. And everybody needs to be reminded of that.
Yes.
And once we start to take some freedoms away from some people, there'll be another group and another group. And eventually they will come for your freedoms.
Yes, they will. Where do you draw the line?
That's right.
It's a slippery slope. Yes, exactly. So good and so true. And keep that in mind as we move forward, everyone.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Sarah Kate. Keep on doing it.
Thanks, Jaimie.
Thank you.
Queer Family Podcast.
Whew. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, feel free to listen to another or watch another. I have so many episodes for your listening or viewing pleasure. Just go pick one and enjoy. There's a lot. There really is. And also, if you really do like this show, please, I know I say it all the time, but please do consider supporting the show on Patreon. You're just going to go to patreon.com/The Queer Family Podcast. You're going to pick a tier, you're going to join, and you're going to get that bonus content. And you're also going to get my love and adoration for the rest of my life. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Keep on tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Mwah.